Hello. Hello. I assume you can hear me. And there's no one there. That's right. It's been a while. I was working on a talent selector a week ago. I had some stuff come up in real life. I had a computer die. Had another computer die. We're finally back. We're in a slightly different setup, but otherwise we're back to doing things. I have lots of ideas. As you can see, they were still there before. They're here again. And we're gonna finish the talent selector. When we left, we had it in a pretty good spot. It was mostly there. The client script knew how to read all the pieces and make a big thing on the screen. Had some issues. We were getting there. Whatever. We're doing that now. Okay. Having thought about this a lot, first of all, I want to just make sure it's functioning. Right now, it's gonna be a script error, which is strange because this has a whole bunch of properties that are not on this. So I think I was in the middle of reorganizing it when I did this. Really looks like I lost a lot here, actually. How did I lose a lot? That is worrying. It's possible that I grabbed the wrong version of this. Yes, I did. Okay, give me a minute here. That's the wrong version of the map. In the migrating to a new computer, I copied over a bunch of files. And these were from a week earlier when I was testing something and I wasn't sure if I was going to lose some data. But in here, aha, here we are. I almost had a panic there, but you know, that would have been a lot of extra work to do. Talent selector from several days later. All right, that. Aha! All right, an error screen. Look at that. Perfect. Got talent trees. Okay. So hello there. I know that guy. You may see that these things look kind of like what we want. We're most of the way there. They have tooltips and everything. So I spent a bunch of time working on this and tried to make it generally flexible. I did a bunch of math to try to make it work for any number of talent trees. And I think that was actually a downfall. We put a lot of effort in trying to make it work and it didn't quite line up correctly and it looks kind of janky. This actually ended up looking all right, but you see that the arrows don't quite line up. There's a little bit of a bump right there, a little bump right here. And if I really were to make if I were to tell it, so having two talent trees, let's see. Talent trees. If I were to make a lot of talent trees, apples, bananas, carrots, D. I don't know fruit that starts with D. It starts to look really unusable, right? This is kind of hard to work with. Looks pretty bad. These arrows look ridiculous. Oh, look at that. Thank you. Hey there. Here's my talent trees. They look ridiculous. When you put too many of them on the screen, it's bad. So I think what I'm going to do, the first thing, is I'm going to rearrange that logic a little bit, get rid of some of the auto scaling and try to make it look really good with exactly the right number, which is 3. 3 talent trees is what we need for this one use case. 3 talent trees is correct for a lot of games. If you really wanted more, we can make them scroll or something rather than trying to fit more on your screen. See how bad this looks right now. Whereas if I delete 2 of these, now it looks more useful. The reason they're kind of centered is that you have the chat window, and I didn't want to overlap that. We could offset them to the right and use up more screen space. We could just ignore the chat and have the chat go over them. That might actually be a good decision. To use up more screen space and make these bigger and wider and easier to read. All right, let's look at our scripts a little bit. Oh, that one over here again. Okay. New stream setup. Run into issues. That's right. So the last time we were about the point where we were going to have pressing the buttons actually do something, but we didn't get there yet. But instead we're going to do some rearranging of all this block of math that actually spawns this thing. And we're also missing a piece. Talents that require the ones to the left and right worked, but we never made the arrows for things that required right above. That was the third piece to do, but I want to take out the scale piece of this and I want to make the trees wider. So, let's see, there's no properties there. Nothing about sizes on here. All right, this is all hard-coded stuff. You can probably hear me. My headphones just ran out of batteries. So, 1 second. Backups. So I get to use my headphones all day. Can I hear things? That is the question. Restart required. Nonsense. Okay. I should be able to hear things now. Let's run around. Yes, sounds are working. Okay. Plug these in. Alright, good to go. Computer making sounds at me. Let's turn that off. Somewhere in the middle of my webcam decided it wanted to play audio. Oh man, Core Live. Thanks, guys. Alright, so back to the script. Many windows open. Nope, not that one. That one. I'm sure there's something embarrassing on all the tabs there. So rather than using, this is kind of a recap. I'm going to go through it again because it's been almost 2 weeks since I streamed last. The UI in Core basically assumes that your screen is 1920 by 1080. If it is not, it scales it evenly. So if you're at any 16:9 resolution, then the coordinate space is that space. If your screen is at a different resolution or a different aspect ratio, I think that we actually just letterbox it, but there might be some sort of, the height or the width stays the same. I'm not actually sure. We were using most of it. We're not going to do that anymore. We are going to, we were getting the chat on there. We're not going to do that anymore. So we're going to try to use the whole screen as much as we can with good padding. So what we found just last time is that these things have scroll bars. These are scroll panels, and I want the scroll bars. This kind of looks okay. Like they're centered in the thing, but the scroll bar takes up space. So you see this gap on the right is smaller than the gap on the left. I think it would look better if the scroll bar was not counted in that calculation, but I'm not actually sure. Maybe it doesn't matter. There's sort of a really, maybe we just leave this here because it's simpler. There's a really awkward problem where like, if you squish it down a little bit, then it affects how long it is, and then it affects if you need the scroll bar or not, and you have like a interdependency loop. So maybe we just leave it like this and say, whatever, this is a scroll bar, this is a scroll bar. So we want some nice padding around the outside. We want some padding between them. We want some padding between the things. The users who use this talent selector, we can use it for our game, we can use it, other people can use it for other games too, will be able to put talent trees at any aspect ratio they want, which maybe makes this harder than I'm saying. You could, where is it? Talent trees. Tree width, tree height. So you could make your trees have 4 or 5 talents wide, and then it would have to scale those things down. Maybe, let's see, if I set this to 5, yeah. If I set this to 1, it's going to error at me. Yeah, it doesn't like that. Okay, some warnings. Interesting. Okay, talent data. Oh, I'm actually surprised by the error there, but that's all right. But you can imagine talent trees that are unusably skinny. wonder if we should enforce this size as well. Or maybe just leave it as it is, because it's pretty reasonable. And just finish that and worry about later, trying to make it look better. I think we could gain a lot by using the whole screen, I think, as a first step here. So let's just, instead of making this 920, let's make 500 units to a side. Let's just make this like 1420, just add 500 units. Error. 70 expected integer received number. Okay. So that is saying this thing has to be an integer, and we gave it a number that's not an integer. Tree height is 700. Min tree height. Tree scale times something something. I guess what I've been doing in a lot of places here is calling math.for to turn a thing into an integer. Can do that here. All right, big talent trees, easy to read, look clean. Scroll up and down. That's interesting. You could argue that the title at the top should not be part of the scrolling. It should stay there as you scroll up and down the talents. That's all right, this is fine. What we're gonna do is we're gonna add the vertical arrows. We're gonna continue with our plan. We're going to question, scroll bar width, not worry about that. We're going to add the vertical arrows, and then we're going to have the buttons appear enabled or disabled depending on context. I made them purple just to like show that it actually works. But when each talent can require a level, it can require a certain number of talent points, and it can require other talents. And if you don't have any of the, if there's one of those things you're missing, then the talent should not be available to you at all. It should just be grayed out. If you have everything, it should be available, and when you mouse over and click on it, it should give it to you. And the ones you already have should also be a different color, a taken color. All right, so requires above. Let's look at how we did this before. So this was crazy logic to spawn these arrows. These arrows are literally a bunch of rectangles and look pretty reasonable. They're not quite right. I think they're fine. For above, it's pretty simple. We're just doing a straight arrow up and down, and we don't need it to be nearly as complicated. So if f(diff) is 0. We're basically just copying this whole brick of text and then modifying it. So requirement arrow is a template. Talent requirement arrow template. If we go over here, helper talent requirement arrow. Oh, we already have one there. Seen somewhere, I think. What are water balloons? That's a strange. It's this guy right here, which talent requirement arrow. My view, maybe. Oh, I see. I'm looking at this thing right here. So, oops. It looks like an arrow, but it has a bunch of pieces very specifically chosen. So it has 3 images that are, these 2 are the 2 sides of the arrow, and this one is the straight piece. And they're in a panel, so if I scale the panel, it makes the arrow longer and shorter. And doesn't scale, like it looks correct. It doesn't make this piece way too big or stretched out or whatever. And then this guy has 0 size, but if I give it a size, it extends the arrow itself, which made a lot of sense for the diagonal ones. And then this guy is just a separate piece entirely you can use to make, it's used for the, like, these, you see these 2 here, and then this guy, then that guy, then that guy. I guess the way I set this up, I could have not needed the extended thing, whatever. We're going to do the same thing here. So we don't need to rotate at all. That's simple. That helps a lot. And we don't need it as long. So this whole thing is scaled by this value, and button padding is the space between the padding, and 1.44 is square root of 2. So if I draw a quick diagram, you'll see why this math is here. Alright, so the padding is the space between the boxes, and you get the diagonal distance by taking the padding times square root of 2, and then you multiply by the scale because this entire thing is scaled up or down, and that is how big it is diagonally between two things. Well, since we're doing this in a, this is a straight arrow, we don't need the diagonal part anymore. Don't need the square root of 2. And yeah, that seems fine. And then x is just panel.x maybe? I'm trying to remember how this thing is centered. Anchor dock, talent button, anchor dock. Okay, so the talent buttons are top left. This thing is anchored to the middle, which makes sense. You want to be able to stretch it and have it stretch around the middle. So we need to add a little bit to that. Panel x plus true scale times max button size divided by 2. Don't need xdiff. Xdiff is 0. So over here. And y, same. This says be in the middle of the button. We're going to comment out this big block here, by the way, and see what it does. This says be, because y coordinates for UI stuff tend to go top to bottom instead of left to right, instead of bottom to top, like they are in other places. You know, like a graph in math class, y positive is upwards. In UI space, it's like you're writing a paper or writing text. It goes top to bottom. The button padding. Let's see how this looks. That should produce an area. Okay, so we got this arrow up here. In fact, it looks great. Confusingly, this arrow looks terrible. This arrow looks great. I don't know why. Why? All right, we're gonna pause while we have this open and look at our trees themselves. So I made them a little bit different so I could. Hello, Sockcap. I don't know where your question's going from. Core is a new platform for building games. It works something like Roblox or Unity or Unreal or any other such system. It's designed to be both easy to use, but also goes can go very deep in it and opt into a lot of complexity and make very complex, fully functional games. I am an engineer who works in Core, and I am building a script system that I could share with other people and use to make a game that allows you to make a talent system, which is a pretty in-depth piece of scripting for a new user, but it is it'll be very useful. I think people want to make more complicated systems. All right, so I'm looking at the bananas tree. I want to see what this guy requires to see, or if these arrows actually are on the correct talent and just positioned poorly, or if they're really out of whack. So the first talent, x2, y1, that's this one right here. So 1's over here, 2's over here. And it doesn't require anything, that's fine. Next one, x3, y2, that's this guy. It requires above left. Okay, that arrow's there, looks good. x2, y3, that's this guy. Requires above. That looks great. 4, x1, y4, that's down here. Doesn't require anything. So this arrow is, I don't know what it's doing. 1, 1, that's this, doesn't require anything. And 2, 5, this one requires above left and above right. So this arrow just came out of nowhere. That's kind of scary. All right, let's look at the fire tree because it's got 3 of these such things. 2, 1 again, doesn't require anything. 3, 2 requires above left. 2, 3 requires above, so that worked correctly. 1, 4 doesn't require anything. 3, 3 requires above and above left. Okay, that worked. And 2, 5. Okay, so this one's correct. This one's correct. Probably correct. And this one got an arrow out of nowhere. Oh, you know what? That's why it's the arrow on my death. Yep, that's the arrow that's just in the scene. Ha! Look at that. So if we just hide this guy for a second, we're gonna... really? Oh, that's collision. Visibility. Look at that. I'm actually surprised these are the right sizes, so we're gonna look at that a little bit and figure out why. Height. So they should only be 1 button tall, but they seem to have grown or shrunk. Like, this one's very... These 3 are very tall, this one's not so tall. Why? We can actually, when we pause, we can actually select these individual elements right here. Maybe. Eh. Maybe not. Well, we can find them in here. Tooltip panel. Nope, not you. Geometry panel. Requirement arrow. All right. So if I hide that, it's a whole arrow. Looks good. Let's actually look at the left one because it has 2 of different sizes. So that's So look at this one and this one. Why are they different sizes? They're not. Okay. Oh, the extender piece actually has a height. Why? That is what I want. The question is, where did that even come from? Vertical extension. Did it not get... It's possible this didn't actually get counted out. I didn't save fast enough. Yeah, there we go. Okay. So the code happened to work. And you see now that our arrows are all very short. Short is the correct size for things that are next to each other, not the correct size for things that are far apart. If they are far apart, y diff is greater than 1. Then we need the straight extension and the vertical extension. We don't need the straight extension at all, actually. This is the one that was to extend... Well, we could do this either way. The vertical extension was the one you can put wherever you want. That's more complicated. We probably don't need that one. We probably need to take some of this math and put it up here to make this the simplest we can. We should say button height, grid size. Yeah, okay. So I'm going to take this right here, just saying this is how y diff is the difference in how far vertically apart the buttons are, if they're 1 row or 2 row or 3 rows apart. Like literally it's just 1, 2, or 3, or bigger numbers. And then we're subtracting 1 and multiplying by the grid size, which is how far apart the buttons are. So if they are 1 apart, we don't need any extension at all. The thing's already correct. If they're 2 apart, then we need a 1 button size extension. And then, 0.88, where did that come from? Oh, I see, it's combining with the other piece. We probably don't need that. In fact, we can probably just take the straight extension and set the height to this. Tree scale times... We can probably do this. I was trying to do some math to make it line up perfectly and look good. But if we do that, let's see if this works. Yeah, perfect. All right, so these look like they line up correctly. Great. Take this whole chunk of code out. That's not there anymore. Great. Sorry about that. Let me close the window. Back up a truck. All right, we're back. So we've got things that look pretty good. You could imagine putting your talents in here and all your equipment and different spells, and it would actually give you the tooltips you wanted. We could do some stuff with colors. There's already some controls for that. What we need to do is make them change state, just show whether or not you have the talent, or you can get the talent, or you don't, and you're missing a requirement. And if you're missing a requirement, we might even put in the tooltip why, already acquired, click to obtain, or missing talent points, something like that. And then we need to make it so when you click on a talent, it actually does something. This is going great. All right, so this is just setup. This is on, like literally when the scripts run, we're not even in a function, it creates this whole thing. Great. The design here was to show these at certain times and hide them other times. Depending on the game, you could have the user presses a button to open the thing, you show them during the lobby. You can imagine a lot of different ways to set up. I'm gonna put this on my neck. Backup headset's got a cord, I can't stand cords. Requirement arrows. Alright, so do we want to do it in a tick function to just update their states? Probably. The way we're doing this is the server, this is a client script. The client displays everything for you, but we're trusting the server to actually handle things. You can't click really fast and take talents you couldn't afford, that sort of thing. That's nonsense. So we basically just have to trust the server to tell us what state we're in. We have a bunch of functions that we wrote a while ago. API, no, it's talent selected utility. Okay. Let me collapse this a little bit. You can get data about it. Required talents, you can find out if does player have talent? Simple. You can try to add the talent. Yeah, we wrote a bunch of these things. There's something about requirements too. Try add player talent. I might just put this out into a separate function that without saying, do we have the ability to have this? Can we take this talent? Because this is where you actually get a talent. So the things you could be missing, you could not be high enough level. You could already have the talent. You can't add a talent you already have. You could be missing one of the required talents, and you could not have enough talent points. Okay. Get player talent points. Is that in here somewhere? Get player talent points. All right, client and server. I want to make sure that I can do all these things in client. So get resources. These are networked. Does player have resource? Client and server. Does player have talent? That's right here. Sorry. Does player have? Oh, this is both things. Get required talent data. That should be client and server. I should make a comment about this. So I should be able to do all of these things on both client and server. Admittedly, if you have, let's say you're sitting here looking at this talent and this talent. You have enough to take either one, but not both. When you click this one and take it, it'll take a fraction of a second to tell the server to get this one, and the server to update its information, send it back, hey, now you have this one, now you have fewer talent points. In that time, this one will still appear like you could take it. If you click real fast, it won't do anything. It'll try to take this one, and the server will say, no, you can't have that. But that is a state that will come up. So we're going to split this into another function. Function utility. So the functions that are utility dot, this is a required script. I'm returning this table. So this is a way of saying the other script will need this, and the client script will need to know if you can have a talent based to use it to color the thing. Client server can player acquire talent. Acquire talent data. So we're basically just taking that right there, pasting it here. But instead of returning, we're returning false. False, false, false. Return true. If you pass all the tests, you can have it. Otherwise, you can't. Simple enough. Or this isn't the right name for the function. Does player have talent requirements? No, this is fine. Can player require talent? Can you go to the talent show? And then down here, I'm just going to call this function. Instead of doing all the same checks twice. If you cannot acquire talent, then we do nothing. Then, otherwise, you get sound. Okay, so now the client can use this function to color things. Great. Tree name, tree name. We have to iterate through all the trees. Where are the buttons? I talked about this before. The talent data actually has the button stored right into it. I thought about putting this in a different structure. I knew I needed it somewhere so I could access it later and do things with it. So then we're going to do this guy inside. Basically just iterating through. Here's all the talent trees. So here's the tree names, the tree data. Here's the talents inside, talent data. We probably don't need these elements for what we're doing right now. And then we're going to say, which state are we in? Do you have the talent? And do we have local players saved somewhere? We don't. Okay. Well, that's surprising, actually. All right. Local player. So if you have it, then color accordingly. Else if can acquire talent. Then else and. All right, so 3 different options. You already have it, you can take it, you can't take it. Simple enough. And in each case, we're gonna do something to the button itself. Talent button is this guy. It's got, you can't see this at the moment. One of these may be hidden. Hero visibility off. Inherit, bammo. All right. It's got 2 images and a button, and some of these are colored. Let me see where this is spawned. Did I do anything with color yet? Did I use the color? There's like a talent color. Ah, here we go. Button background image. There is a set color. I use that kind of color for the background image. Let me look at the, let me open the appropriate browser here. Oh, well, that was dangerous. Sorry I'll look in real quick here. Went to the wrong website. Aha, I found it. All right, here's documentation. So looking at the core API, I look at this documentation a lot when I'm working on this, and we want to look at buttons, UI button. I believe they have a way to be enabled or disabled. We can set button color, hover color, press color, disabled color, font color, image. Oh, we don't need to set the color if we just set them disabled. Well, that does something. Okay, so this will affect the color, the button itself, which is the icon, but not the background. We might need to make a couple pieces of this work together to look good. And I believe this actually just uses the isEnabled property that every core object has, even though it's only used in a handful of cases. Core object is enabled. All right, so we're gonna just try that. Talent data dot button dot isEnabled equals false. So if you already have it, you can't take it. If you don't have the requirements, you can't take it. False, true, false. let us see what that does. And we're going to hide. Let's move this guy up here so we have one container to hide. Ooh, they're invisible. All right. So I have a script that's randomly giving us talents to show how this could work. And you see they're appearing and disappearing. So apparently not enabled is just flat invisible. That's a little scary. I wonder if they're hiding behind, if they're changing their depth. Huh. Oh, I see what's happening. So the script only affecting the fire tree, but it's actually taking talents. And so they were appearing and disappearing because I had enough talent points, and then I spent talent points on something else, and they disappeared. And now they're there because I have all the talents in this one. All right, so disabled being invisible is weird, to say the least. We'll look at this guy. Where are we? Nope, not that guy. Fire? No, this is fire. Inherited visibility. Why is the entire thing invisible? Well, there's some strange behavior. I don't understand at all. All right, we're gonna try something just to force on. Maybe just went with this here. Oh, still invisible. We might have to take a different approach where we manually test the colors, which is fine. We're probably gonna have to do that anyway, just to do the background stuff. Yeah, seems like isEnabled is interacting poorly with this. This might be a bug. Let me write that down. Okay, no problem. So, oops, instead of doing that, I wonder if disabled buttons even have hover states. Let's maybe be able to test that actually. No, right? So you can't get the tooltip for the disabled ones, which we really, really do want the tooltips, right? You want to be able to show the things that you have. So we will simply make them look like buttons, and when you click on them, we won't even bother trying to take it if the client thinks you can't take it. So we're not going to touch this. Get rid of those guys. Oops. All right. So what does it look like when you already have it versus when you can't take it? Usually not being able to take things is kind of gray. And let us make this visible again and play with it a little bit. So we'll take this and drag it into the middle. So if I take this background that's this color and I gray it out a lot, I take the saturation. Does that look like a thing you wouldn't be able to get? If all the parts were gray, maybe. Like if I did that and this, and then this. Where the background is still red. Ooh, that's that's hard to look at. I wonder if the border was black, but the icon was gray. Or if the background's still red. Keep looking at that. Now the red and gray does not go well together. The bright color, it needs to be saturated, unsaturated. Okay. So basically, I'm just gonna make 3 copies of this and then delete them. I'm not gonna update the template. So I'm gonna take this one. I don't know what it's gonna do. Let's drag these out of here. Reset to template. Oop. All right. Back to looking good. So this is the selectable talent. The one below it is the disabled one, and the one above is the one you already have. I'll put this backwards. I'm trying to put these in the hierarchy in the same order so I don't get confused later. Okay. So the one you already have a different kind of gray? White? Brighter color? Just darker maybe? Instead of graying it out, just make it dark. It's a reasonable starting point. Part of this is the different talents can have different colors, and it can be any color, so we kind of have to try to pick things that look reasonable with different colors. So I think this is where I'm going to start, trying to make these appear that way. Let me look in here. All right. I like that enough. So if you already have it, we take the, where did the buttons come from? Button, background image. I'm gonna grab that and do some rearranging. Alright, so we got the button and the color. We want to make it darker. We might need some helper functions here. There aren't a ton of utility in terms of colors. If we go do the color class, you'll see that I can lerp. That might just be good enough, lerp towards black, which is saying I want to be some fraction of the way from where this color is to black. Versus random colors and set RGB values is basically it. I'm gonna do some desaturation. Colors are just amazingly more complicated than you might imagine unless you really think about them a lot or are an artist. That's not half the screen, that is. There are so many ways to, different ways to represent colors that don't quite line up nicely. And all right, so we were going to color.lerp, simple. Color.lerp from icon color to black. I'll give it 0.5 value, just halfway. So darken it by 50%. This probably will not be as dark as we want it to be. Let me show you actually. This is an interesting thing to see. If I grab a color here, the background color, and I make it gray. So see this value slider here? Look at the color of this button here. It's white. Put it right in the middle. It looks like a very light gray. That does not look like the middle color. I go another 3/4. That looks like a middle gray. Go darker, darker, darker. That still looks like gray, and I am at 0.07. That's 7% of the way. Our eyes really, there's a lot of space over on this end, and this side doesn't look like it changes much. So realistically, we probably need to put like 0.7 here. We'll just do that and see how it comes out. All right, so if it becomes available, we have each of these cases has to fix what the other cases did, because we don't know when it goes from one state to another. So in this case, we just immediately set it to the icon color. In fact, I could even go so far as to not do that here. This guy right here, we don't need that, because it's going to get set immediately by the tick function. And we don't know the talent's available immediately. That doesn't make any sense. And then the third state was both the button and the thing are grayed out, and it's kind of pushed towards gray, not towards black. So go here. Actually, let's copy the first line. Same deal. I'll make it a little bit less, and instead of black, let's see what colors are defined. These guys, gray. I was going to spell it the other way. Or silver. Actually, I'm going to use silver. It's a little bit lighter. That's what we're going for here. All right, so just without actually touching the button, let's see how this looks. Let's force off. All right. So you see, these ones are the ones I can't take. The ones down here. These are the ones I do have, and the bright ones are the ones I can take. Looks all right. That's not dark enough, I don't think. Or maybe it's not red enough. Maybe it's too dark. So now I have this entire talent tree, and as I'm building up talent points, I now can take these. I can't take these because I don't have the requirements. I never will. That shows the 3 states. The thing being grayed out, the actual icon, will be an improvement here, so we'll do that. So the button itself is interesting. Button equals this guy. What's interesting is that I've made naming that is confusing. It's confusing enough that it took me a second to read it, which is not ideal. The button should be the button, not the button template. So we're going to rename this button template, which is the template that has all the pieces in it and not just the button. And this also I'm going to call button template. It's not just the button. And it is used down here. That off to a variable so that I can use it in each case without using a bunch of cases actually. Haha, we can put this outside the loop. All 3 of them need it. Simple enough. Button background image and button. Close that right there. All right, so we didn't do any color setting up here. We're gonna do it down here. Buttons have slightly different color stuff because they have a bunch of different colors. We just looked at this a minute ago, but I don't remember what it said. Okay, so we gotta set a bunch of colors here. We're not disabling these. We don't care about those. They don't have font on them. They do have an image, but that's not the color. So we have hovered color, button color, and pressed color. We're going to do just button color first. And the default, they are black. Simple enough. And in the case where you cannot acquire the talent, then we wanted this to be kind of gray. I think we can just make it silver actually. And we'll worry about the other ones in a minute. Let's see how that looks. Okay, that is really gray. And these were too much. We could even do, this is definitely something a more fiddly and artistic eye could do better. It's possible inverting the colors and having the talent color be this would be something readable. I might leave this to, ask someone else if they have an opinion, see what they think. I think I'm gonna make this a little bit less gray and make this, yeah, in both cases make it a little bit less. So I'll make this gray. In this case, like 0.5. That's really gray. 0.3, why is this so not red? You know what might actually help is having the border be like a... It's going to be hard to do with arbitrary colors, but you could do it like a yellow if the game is the right color. Or a lighter border. Especially if the background of the whole tree was colored. It's very hard to procedurally generate colors and have them look good. That's right, I think this is readable enough. We will leave that as it is. Let's see how they moused over. Oh, the purple is terrible. We can't have that. Well, it's not terrible. It's just right. I think we can do... I think that's actually just right in the template, right? This guy, reset to template. Button. Yeah, we'll make this white. Make that white, I said. Okay. Yeah, that seems fine. So no matter what state it's in, mousing returns it white. That seems fine. It's very obvious. And depressed. We could make that third color as well. I call it pressed. Yeah, gray. Let's see how that looks. We don't need to change it as we go to different states. Just some visual change that indicates your mouse cursor is actually doing something. All right. So the next two steps, let's go back to Talent Selector to do. Showing hiding. Before we get to that, tooltip shows if you can take it, have it, or why not. Actually taking talents. That's kind of these right here. Direction costs. Yeah, we have a lot of the parts though. That will actually be pretty straightforward. Showing and hiding also will be very straightforward. We just have to do it. We're almost there. This is good. All right. More info in the tooltip. So on button hover, here's the tooltip. Question is, if I mouse over this thing and then something changes, then I gain a talent point because someone dies in the background or something. I want the tooltip to update immediately, right? So this stuff is all static information that doesn't change depending on what's happening, but the stuff I'm about to add to it does. So what I need to do is in here, this guy right here, we're going to add into our tick function. If tooltip panel visibility is not equal to off, then, all right, so the tooltip is visible. Great, now we need to update some things. In fact, this kind of just goes with these states right here. Well, does the tooltip panel know what button it has? Button hovered. It doesn't say anything about that. It just reads the talent data off of this. Trying to think if I put it down here, will it be able to, where do I store the, I can put it into a variable. I mean, I'm doing this, but just saying, here's the talent we're currently looking at. Here's what information you need. Excuse me. And then we're going to call these same functions again. That's fine. This thing, every single frame, it calls these functions for every single talent in the tree. That's actually a lot. That might be expensive. Luckily, when you have the talent screen open, you're probably not doing gameplay critical things, and so far it doesn't seem to be slow. We'll find out. For this, we're calling out one talent an extra time. That's not bad. There's a lot of talents. Okay, so the tooltip panel is not a template. There's only one of them. It's right here. It is forced off visibility by default. We'll turn it on so we can look at it. It has background. It has 3 text boxes, and then a border maybe. Yeah. Okay. And some references to the pieces here. Well, we need one more. We need some red text that says status or something. So we're going to add one more text box. Put it like this. How tall are these guys? 40. Let's work with this 40. You cannot has. Requires additional pylons. Talent state seems like a good thing to write there. And this is gonna be red, dark red, probably. If you, this will be blank if you can take the talent, right? Or maybe it'll be green. Maybe we just do that. Maybe it should be green, like click to take. Red, you are missing this requirement. Or red, you already have this talent, or white, you already have this talent. I guess, yeah, we'll change the colors based on what's going on here. And then this box up here needs to just be a little shorter. So y offset instead of 10. Let's see, how tall do I make this thing? So the entire thing is 500 units tall. I'm trying to figure out how much space I put between these boxes so I can have this be the same. This is 10 from the bottom and 230 tall, so it's 240. Out of 500? Really? That doesn't seem right. Oh, it's 300, sorry. And these are 10 and 40, so they're 50. And 240 means there's 10 between those. So if we took up another 50, we actually need to cut 60 off for this guy. So 170, and make it, that's too much. There we go. Okay. Text, clip text is correct. Okay. Then we're going to drag a custom property over here. Tooltip state text. And then, was this guy the one that was forced off? Tooltip panel, this one. Yep, okay. All right. Text equals blah. Okay. So when we variable full hovered talent data. Hover is not the right word. Tooltip talent data is very clear what's going on here. In fact, this is great. I don't even need to check the visibility. I can just say, if this thing exists at all, then there's a talent. If whoop, then. All right. And we're going to basically copy this logic right here. Looking at the same 3 states, already have it, can take it, can't take it. Only instead of it being talent data, it's now tooltip talent data. And instead of us doing something to the buttons, we are now doing something to this text box we just made. We're going to change its text field, and we're going to change UI text set color. Okay, simple enough. All right, you already have the talent. Great. This is color white. Talent. You have this talent? Talent known, talent controlled. That's not the right messaging, but we'll do this. All right, it'll be emerald, I think. Look at the colors again. Green, like the pure colors tend to be really, they're maximum saturated. They tend to be too bright for actual usage. Emerald's darker. And really we can put in any colors, any RGB value we want. Emerald is probably fine. Maybe it's a little dark. We'll try it. And then there's a ruby, and that is dark too. I'm wondering these might not be as dark as they look. Then we're playing Pokemon, Click to learn. Talent known. Environment missing. All right. We could go into more detail of figuring out exactly what requirements we don't have. We could take this function and have it return some sort of error string that says, hey, you're missing this level or whatever. Even more ideally, you don't want to, this is kind of a sometimes frustrating experience where it's like, let's say the player's not high enough level. They're level 4 and it requires level 5. And they say, okay, the mouse over it says, you need to be at level 5. And they say, great, as soon as I'm next level, I'll take this talent. But then they get to the next level and then it actually fails on one of the other checks. They don't have one of the required talents, they don't have talent points, but they didn't tell them that before. So the real ideal case would be to tell them all the things they're missing at the same time. So you can't take this talent because you're not high enough level, you don't have enough points, and you're missing this requirement. That's pain. We could do it. It'd be hard to write out. I think that if I do this, it says requirement missing, that's fine for this practical purposes of this. Hey, my thing has got off the bottom of my screen. That's not great. We should make sure that doesn't happen. I actually talked about this when I wrote this thing in the first place, about the going off the right side, and then I said I wasn't going to worry about that because I chose to put these into place where that wasn't really a problem. That can go off the bottom. That's no good. We should fix that. All right, click to learn is good. I like that. Requirement missing is good. I like that. Talent known is a little hard to read. I think maybe a blue color would help here. Maybe a sapphire. Oops. Talent known. Oh, fire's in the middle this time. That's right. There was a note about consider talent tree order. Yes, okay. They're currently randomly ordered. All right, so green, red, blue. Great. Random order is not great. I like this. This looks super, this is so much better than I was worried this was going to turn out. Also, I'm totally going bananas. All right, so that turned out pretty well. Let's add the quickly add the thing where it doesn't go too far down. It's not too hard to add. There's a UI namespace that tells us some of the things we want, like get screen size. And the height of this thing, does tooltip panel actually have the correct height value on it? It does. Great. Okay. Simple enough. Cursor position. So these are vector 2s. Y equals math dot max. But I don't need screen size. Oh, no, I do screen size. Okay. I think it's because Y is positive downward. All right. So screen size.y tells me the coordinate at the bottom of the screen minus height. Says this is the coordinate. This is the farthest down this thing should be. If it's any further down, we're going off the bottom of the screen. We're probably off by 1 here. We'll see how it looks. And off by 1 in UI space probably doesn't matter. All right, so that's the farthest to go down. It's probably min, not max. Yes, okay. So up here, still looks fine. If I come in here, doesn't appear at all. Oh, look at that. Perfect. All right, you see how there's a 1 pixel border at the bottom? That actually is fine, I think. It doesn't go off screen. This is pro. We can do the same thing with X, actually, just to be robust. It's simple enough. Which you're not going to be able to see here. But if I were to make this 1920 for test case, wasn't as wide as I expected it to be. Not off the screen. Oh yeah. I wonder if I add or subtract 1 to this. So I want this to be 1 more. Plus 1, really? This might not be off by 1. It might be that the UI textures just have a little bit of space in them. Yeah, I'll get rid of that. Okay. So we've got tooltips look good. What are we doing next? Actually taking talents. Sure. So on button clicked, we can acquire talent. This player have talent. One of these calls the other one, right? Yes. We could reorder this to be a little more efficient. Maybe. This is very minor optimization, but can acquire talent is already checking, does player have talent? So if you can't acquire, it seems like in my mind, the ordering was this way because it was like the talents from top to bottom would be that order. That's fine. Okay. So what we're going to do is copy this line right here, part of it, bring it up here. All right. So you clicked on a button, and I'm saying, hey, can you acquire this talent? If so, let's try to take it. If not, then we do nothing. Basically, if not, it means that you are spamming a button or something, or we got into a broken state, which isn't great, but we'd rather not send a bunch of events that the server is going to reject. Broadcast to server. What do I want to call this? Talent click, talent take, talent learn, learn talent. Learn makes sense. And it needs some data to tell it what talent it is. I can't just pass a whole table because that will not fit an event. Way too much data. We just need the minimum amount of data to identify this talent. Let's look at what we have to get on the server. So try add talent is going to need talent data. So the server needs to somehow get the talent from whatever data we pass in. Add player talent data, remove talent points. Talent. Does player have talent? No. Return false. Players are talentless. All right, so I don't have any helper that takes, coordinates or something, but what I can do is the way this is organized in the tree, if you look at how I've iterated through things, is there's the tree name and the talent name, and that's enough. The trees have to be uniquely named, the talents have to be uniquely named. This is why there's Fireball, Fireball 2, Fireball 3. So I can just pass those. And I think talent data knows what tree it's in. Let's find out. Maybe it doesn't. That would be kind of interesting. Initialize talent tree data, not that one. Read talent tree, this huge function here. Let's see what it puts in here. Tree name. Bam! I did that. That's great. Okay. So we're gonna take those two things, put them up here. Sort of. We're gonna do some string manipulation. Okay. So we're gonna pass in the tree name and the talent name. This almost works consistently. In fact, for all practical cases, this will work. There is a flaw here, which is that the designer who uses this and doesn't look at the code very much or at all could make trees with very long names. And a broadcaster server has a limitation on the size of this event, and those string names are part of that. So if you named your talent tree, shadow, comma, my character's backstory begins in the depths of the swamps or something, and just start some, long monologue about it, well, then the people will not be able to take talents from that tree ever. None of the talents will ever work. That's not great. We could get around this limitation by having a way to access it from X and Y, and by when we add, in a minute, we're going to add an order property of the trees, so you know what order they're in. We could use that property as the identifier, and those are much less likely to overlap. In fact, I'd go so far as to say maybe we should do that first, and then make this more robust, because I don't want people to take this and then run into issues, especially since the issues that this will hit are kind of cryptic. I could get the return from this and then try to print out some useful error message, but at the same time, it'll also spit out another message. If broadcast fails, it'll be like broadcast too large, used 170 bytes, and that doesn't tell you that your name's too long. It tells you that something happened in the script. People often see that sort of thing and just assume it's broken. Okay, so let's back that up for a minute and look at actual taking talent, showing hiding. Okay, how do we want to do this? For our game, for the prime example of this, it'll just be on lobby start and lobby end. But for other games, they may have a button that press or something like that. So we want to have some easy way to do this. And I think it is simple as just a function here that listens to an event, maybe. You just fire an event, show talents, hide talents. Show talent trees, even. Hide talent trees. I would like to figure out how to make my slime not do that. Somewhere in here, tooltip panel, no, not you. UI container, do we use this thing anywhere in here? Yes, things are spawned with that as the parent. Okay, so this thing is the actual thing that becomes hidden or not hidden. This will hide everything, and we want to, in fact, what is this container doing up here? Wait. The tooltip panel is not in the same container. I wonder if that's intentional. So I only have two containers. Like if you mouse over something and then the round starts, I don't want your tooltip to just stay there. Well, they only got used once. I think we can move this into the same container and it won't break anything. Let's find out. Nothing's broken. Everything is perfect. I see why I did this. Undo, undo, undo. Okay. Okay. Simple enough. When you hide talent trees, we will also hide the tooltip. Simple enough. And hopefully you can't hover the button when the talent trees are not there. To show it again, we'll find out in a minute. We'll look these things up. we might want to store this to a variable so that the tick function can do nothing if they're hidden, rather than waste too much time updating things you can't see. That seems like a way to go. Let's do that. Talent trees invisible. True. Maybe. For now, we'll go true. We'll probably want the default state to be false later. But for debugging, it's going to be a real pain if we have to do something every time we want to see them. Show talent trees. Hide talent trees. And tick function. If they're not visible, then return and don't do anything. Alright. I want to hook these up to events. In fact, I just realized this file is out of order. I have strict ordering requirements. This is not it. This goes way up here. The reasoning for this is that everything down here is outside of a function, kind of initialization code, even though it's a big tree of stuff. Some people might put that in a function. It doesn't really bug me. I might put it in a function. Build talent tree UI. All right. Hopefully this still works. Okay, great. So we wanted to hook up these show talent trees and hide talent trees. Events.connect show talent trees. Seems like a good name for it. These are non-networked events, so they don't have the same requirements or limitations I was just talking about. These would be from other client things. You have the user pressing a button or the round starting, which is already known on the client. So you can just fire these events and not have any problems. Also, they have no arguments at all. It's just a name. For now, what we will do, we have this talent test script. That's not a client script. We need a client script. Talent test client. What's in here? Basically nothing. Authorities show. Oh, it's right here already. Okay, great. Function on binding pressed. Player. Hook up our test script to let us hide and show these. Binding. Game. Player. Binding pressed. Right. N equals, what is N? Ability bindings. N. 44. Stop. Broadcast. Okay. You could also have a toggle, in this case for a test, whatever. Trees visible equals true. If then okay. So hopefully I can hit N and my trees will appear and disappear now. Well, look at that. Oh man. That's pretty sweet. Yeah, talent trees. And they remember where you scrolled them. That's pretty cool. And I believe they're too tall, right? But they're the right height, given that I told them to be 6 tall and I didn't put any talents in the 6th row. If I take this and tell them to be 5 tall. Yeah, okay, that looks better. Okay, sweet. So showing and hiding is ready. For our extra game, I'll hook them up a little bit, but that's pretty straightforward. Actually taking talents. We're going to do the tree order first. Where do I show some trees? Talent resetting. Actually giving equipment. Okay, this is a key. It's not too hard. Actually, this is remarkably easy. But untalenting, let's not worry about that for now. Just right out of the scope. Anything we add later if we need it. Talent tree colors. Having a background color makes sense. I'm not sure how it will look if I make the fire talents on a red background. Maybe it's a dark brown background with bright red talents or something. I think the white trees look pretty bad, but maybe other colors will look bad on the top of them. So let's talk about order. So there are no properties in the talent trees right now, and we want them to have properties. We're going to add some features to this. So one is called order. And do the talents themselves have tooltips? No. Okay, fine. So one is called order, and one is called background color. So two things. So the first 2 lines here. I should have made this a lot bigger. Sorry about that. I bet you were having trouble reading this the whole time. This is what I get for switching computers and not really paying too much attention. All right. Top 2 things are like they're next to each other, so we'll do them at the same time. Order background color. I'm going to need to do the same thing on all 3 of these. I could copy paste again, but this is not too hard. Okay, so I'm gonna put these in alphabetical order. Give apple 1, bananas 2, fire 3. Apples are a nice orange color. That's not right. Apples are red, but fire's red. Apples are green. We like green apples. Bananas are yellow, obviously. And fire is crispy. Let's try this dark brown color, maybe. Something like that. See how that looks. This might be a lot. All right, so here's where we need these. In utility, this is the function that reads these things. This took a long time to write. We're gonna add some pieces. We have to make sure that you don't have 2 trees with the same order. That would be an error. One of the biggest things about this function is that it checks every possible thing you could set up incorrectly and gives you a useful message and tells you what's wrong. And the idea there being, we don't want to have some cryptic script error because you put in some wrong data. Maybe you didn't notice you used the same order twice. So before we get here, this is tree group. If you have a duplicate name, no good. If it's not a folder, it's got to be a folder. It doesn't have no children. That's not helpful. Now we've got more. Also, we don't have a mechanism for these to have data in them. Let's think about that. There's a name and a group and a selection of talents, and that's it. We can instead make that a table that has a bunch of fields in it, like name, color, order, and talents, but then we're in one level deeper, and every time we're doing through all the talents, we're 3 tables deep instead of 2, which is going to make a lot of text and a lot of changes. Talent tree table. Could have a separate parallel table. I think I'll do that. Utility.talent tree data is talent tree name. That is data. So when you build this, you'll build pieces. Both of these get a table, and then actually I can just make this table before I store it. Tree data. Tree data dot order. Tree group get custom property order. Dot and I think I just call this color. Well, no, background color is pretty clear about what it's going to color. Okay, so this will, for each tree when we're reading them in, we'll read these properties, we'll find them, and we will put them into a thing. Now, this checks for all the possible things missing, things. We're gonna do the same thing up here. We got a bunch of error cases. In fact, we have exactly 3 error cases that look kind of like this. And we can do the same as we did up here. We can try to put in the table. A lot of the same pattern, actually. Tree has errors. And if the tree has errors, we don't build the tree at all. So if we're missing one of the fields, that's bad. And if the order, we gotta do little special things. We're gonna have to iterate through the other ones and find out if the order is already taking. Hello, Sergeant Smokey. Sorry, I didn't see you. We are making a talent selector using Core to which is an engine, a tool, a platform for building games. And we're making a talent selector kind of like a simple RPG talent selector. If I hit, well, I just made a bunch of errors because I'm halfway through editing it. But you'll see talent selectors kind of like Diablo 2 or WoW or very simplified PathFX style kind of thing that we can use to build a simple RPG. And in fact, we're kind of building a game that's a lot like a custom game in Warcraft 3, but it will be usable by many other people as well. All right, so we're missing order. Order missing on talent tree. And where is tree group has a name somewhere, right? This guy. Core is a relatively new game dev platform. Very, very new. In fact, I believe the category on Twitch was added today, maybe yesterday. It's been out for a few weeks. It's I work for the company that makes it, but it is really, in my mind, an excellent mix in the middle of easy to approach and allows you to go very deep and make a lot of complex and interesting interactions and mechanics, and lets you really program things as much as you want with Lua. And the iteration speed is incredible. So far, I've been a huge fan of it. Order missing a talent tree. Yes, okay. Background color missing on talent tree. So those two are correct. This one, we need to look at the other ones before we even add it in here. So we'll order conflict. False. Also, core is free. I mention, as people are asking about, I should give you the sell here. Core is free. You can go to coregames.com and download it. It allows you to create games and play any game that anyone else has made. You can publish games with a single click. You make a game, you hit the button, share your URL with your friend, they can join immediately. Creators will be monetized in the future. It has a lot of, well, what are the things that are great about this? There's many more things. I should get some notes over here. The free part's pretty big. I think that we have a couple example games we've made to show off how things work, and you could use them and play with them, pull them apart, see how all the pieces are made. And they're really quite in-depth and complex. We made a battle royale game. We made a fantasy capture point game. We made a military-themed shooter game. The company is called Manticore Games. And there are many. A lot of people look at it and say, "Oh, you're making a bunch of shooter games," and I mentioned a fantasy game, but there are things like one of our creators made chess. Just a game, you walk up to a chessboard and press a button, someone else walks up to the other side, and they start playing chess against together. And because of the nature of core, how easy it is to share things, I can, if he decided to share that chess set, I can go into here and go to community content, type chess, and he might have chess set. Bam. I can import this, I can put it in my level, and start playing chess. And I have made a lot of pieces for different types of games as well. Like this talent tree, which you would not have in a shooter probably. I'm thinking ahead a little bit here. Why I'm hesitating is once I actually have these orders numbers, basically I'm saying you can put in any numbers you want here as long as they don't conflict. You could have talent trees have 1, 7, and 12. And then I want to put them in that order, but the question is, how do I order that when I actually draw them? That's probably fine. You can probably sort the table somewhere in the other file. We'll think about that in a minute. So here we're trying to add a new talent tree. And we're looking at the ones we've already found and saying, hey, do any of these have the same order? If, this should not say talent data, this should be tree data. Tree data.order equals other tree data dot order, and has order conflict equals true. In fact, I don't know that we need to, we could just not have that variable at all and put this inside. Because when the tree has errors, we're not even adding the tree, we're just gonna skip it. So you're not gonna, if you have 3 trees at all the same order, you're not gonna get recurring errors. It's gonna, the first one's gonna work, the second one's gonna say, hey, I've got an error, and the third one's gonna say, I've got an error with the first one, the second one's not even there. Unreal Engine. For what it's worth, Core is actually built on top of Unreal Engine in a kind of strange way. It pretends to be a game in Unreal, but it adds, as a developer who works on this, I spend half my time or more than half my time working on Unreal, have a lot of my time working in Core, and I really, really like how fast Core is, and it gives me a lot of the same power. If you really want to dive in deep and make something very strange with Unreal, yeah, you can go spend years programming C++, but there are all sorts of things, and the iteration speed is insane. Some of the games we've made are, people say, oh, well, of course you made a battle royale. It's just, not very good Fortnite. And you're like, well, Fortnite took, a big company years, and this took 2 engineers 2 weeks. So that seems worth it to me. And this is, despite the title of my stream, this is actually the 4th part of me working on this. But my stream is only 3 hours. So I have a functioning talent selector that we are almost done with. And we are at about 10.5 hours into it. And this is one of the most complex script systems I've written in this game, or in this engine. Platform. Platform's the word. All right, so order conflicts. Other tree name. I want that so I can tell you. Order value conflicts on talent tree. Conflicts with tree. Yep, okay. So down here, if talent has errors, what do? We just don't stick it in the table. And then, once we do that, use to give talent indices. Talent data array. Why do talents have indices? Oh, in the string of whether or not you have it. Okay, that makes sense. Cool. Have a good one, Sergeant Smokey. Thanks for coming by. Alright. So in the case of the tree has errors, we basically just want to skip the entire rest of this. Lua inconveniently does not have a continue command, as C++ would. So we have to put this entire thing in an if block rather than just skipping to the next loop. We do want to read the next tree. We don't want to do any of this stuff. The talents aren't there, so put the end down there. Cursor, come on, right there. All right, so if there's no errors, then we go through, we read all the talents, check all the talents, we compare the talents, we give them indices, all that stuff. If there are errors, then we have errors. Okay, so play, trees appear again, they work. We didn't actually do anything to use those orders or those colors, we just read them. So you notice that bananas fire apple, apple bananas fire, they're random. If I go in here and give two of them the same number, I got an error. Oh, I got 2 errors. Okay, this is actually expected. This is not bad. The reason we got 2 errors is because this code runs independently on the client and server, and each one of them caught the same error, which is good. They should have exactly the same process. And it said bananas conflicts, so bananas didn't get stuff. They did still get this guy here. So maybe I don't want that. An empty table. Yeah, I think I should move this line down here. Tree has no talents warning. So previously I made some of these errors. We can see if these are. I thought about this some. Errors stop the script immediately. If you name 2 talent trees the same thing, it's just pow, it's gone. I don't think that's what I want to do. I think I want to put all these in the same kind of logic. So if your talent tree has a duplicate name or is not the right thing or has no talents, we print out a thing and don't read it. We just continue on to the other ones. That seems fine. It's kind of severe that you have a tree that's incorrect, but so if I do this, I should only get 2 trees. Yep, okay. It's saying, hey, you got a duplicate order. We set it to 3. Bam, now they're all back. Perfect. Okay. Now to actually use those. So on the client, we had this function before. We looked at it a little bit today. Build child tree UI. So we're just reading the tree data and setting the x coordinate right here. This is the line. Tree number, we're just iterating as we go through. Well, that's the thing we want to do differently. We want to use the order value and make sure they're actually in the right order. This will come in later. One of the features that we'll be adding is the ability to have more than 3 trees and only shows certain trees to certain players, depending on how we want to set that up. We haven't really thought about it too much, besides making sure it's possible. In many games, depending on your class, you get different talent trees. In this one case, we're going to have just the first approach is going to be to do it randomly. There'll be 8 talent trees, let's say, and when you start the game, you get 3 of them. And each game's going to be a little different because sometimes you get the talent trees you know how to build, and sometimes you get something different and kind of have to see how they fit together. So we want to sort these a little bit. And I think the way to do that, let's think about this a little bit. We've got group name, talent tree data. Order background color. So we can get from name to the order, and we can put those in a table and sort them. It's kind of weird because what we want to know is which position does it have on screen. So if I do this, if this guy is order 2, this one's 7, this one's 11, I want to sort those and be able to take from 2 and get 1, and take from 7 and get 2, and take from 11 and get 3. I want which position on screen it goes in incremental integers, which is the value that goes into right here, the tree number. But I need to do that in a slightly smarter way by reading through. Also, I just made a table, this guy that I haven't accessed. That's actually shared, okay. Build talent tree UI. And I want to do this in here and not some global thing where I give them actual indices because, as I said before, some of them might not be visible. So if there are 8 trees that are actually numbered 1 through 8, but you get trees 1, 7, and 6, then 6 needs to be the second tree that you have displayed. Tree position indexes. Tree name. So there's a sort function. I'm trying to remember how this works. Let's look it up. There's a Lua built-in. Nope, not you. API overview. Scroll all the way to the bottom. Down here, built-in Lua functions. No, not you. This one. Reference manual. Table.sort. All right. So I can tell it how to compare things, but it's going to change their indices. And it's expecting, Lua kind of expects tables in 2 forms. Despite them all being associative arrays, it expects them either to be just your pure associative array where every keys are whatever you want, or expects it to be an array where the keys are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and there's nothing missing. Just incremental integers starting at 1. And this function expects that pattern and is going to change them. So I can't use both parts of the table as relevant information because it's going to change the keys. What I need out of this is a way to get from my tree name to the new index. So I have to do this kind of both ways. Local tree datas. I can just stick to the tables that are in my tree data array. Where's this going? Okay. Have two elements, order and background color, but I also need the name out of it. I can sort this and have the order sorted, but I need to know what they were in the first place. And I can put name in there. Talent datas have name. That's fine. We'll just put name in here. Tree data.name equals. Where is our name? Tree group.name. Bam. Okay. So now they have name in them. Tree data array. Data in pairs. All right, so this thing, talent tree data that came from here, has keys of the strings. The key is the name of the tree. Here we're sticking it into an array and using table to insert, so it's going to put them in as with integer keys. We're throwing that away. It doesn't matter. We need those. Or we don't need this. All right. So then table.sort tree data array function. I can define this function above. How do I do? Is there a sort in here somewhere? What is my style on this? Compare talents right here. I just defined it right above it. That seems good. I could define it in line, but that seems trees. Seems a little bit hard to read. All right, so all we care about in this case is the order. We're just return order less than order. They should be different. Just sorting out order. Okay. So this guy, now we've got a sorted thing. So the index of this table is actually the thing we need. So we're going to do one more for loop. For I tree data in pairs, tree data array do. Okay, so now we're making a table backwards. I promise this is useful. I wonder what core of the Paragon is. You're the second and third person asked tonight. Skullcrusher. This is Core. It is a game platform made by a company called Manticore Games. It is a tool used to make games of all sorts. You can play games, you can make games and publish games, share them with your friends. It is designed somewhat for hobbyists, but also professionals. It allows you to make things very quickly and without too much without too much experience or expertise. You can make functional things, make cool stuff, but also you can go really deep. That we have what we call opt-in complexity. You can, you put in, I can show you. Let me actually switch to Core instead of my text editor. And I've got my character, I can run around in my blank world, but at the same time I can add things that are really complex if I want to put much time in. One of the things I made on Stream, no less, is a rocket ship. Nope, that's maybe it's just rocket. What did I call it? Spaceship? I probably called it spaceship. Aha, viable spaceship. Let's take this guy. Gameplay spaceship. So I shared this. Anyone who's using Core can put this in their game. But there's a spaceship. I had my talent trees that I'm working on. I can fly my spaceship and pilot it, and now I'm in a spaceship. Which doesn't have any sounds at the moment, but let's pause. Spaceship. Oh, spaceship's invisible. Aha. Anyway, spaceship flies around. I'm trying to remember how the controls for this thing work. There we go. Anyway, there are lots of things you can do. Lots of different games. Check it out. It's free. Go to coregames.com. I believe that says on my channel somewhere. Let's make sure of that. Channel. Oh, Core. Yeah, look at that. Core is an endless universe of games and worlds. I didn't write this. Designed by the global community of creators. Core is free to play and sign. It's create and play. Sign up at coregames.com. All right. I'm going to delete my spaceship because I'm working on talents here. And go back to the horrible mess of tables I'm working on. All right, so I sorted this array. So the indices were what position they should be on my screen. And then I put them in this backwards. So the index is now taking the name and giving us where they should be. So instead of me having tree number down here, which we don't need anymore, hopefully we can just use that. Tree name, and this is probably going to make my line way too long. That line already looks pretty long. Yeah. Okay, let's see what we can do about that. Local index equals blah. Okay. Let's see if this works. Apples, fire, bananas. Well, that's not right. Fire was supposed to be 2. Banana is supposed to be 3. It's always apple, fire, bananas. Consistently wrong? That's something. We can debug. Tree add index. Okay. Apples, fire, bananas. Well, that's exactly what it's doing. 1, 2, 3. Why though? Why did it sort this way? Comparing tree to tree. We do have a script debugger that you can use similar to a GUI Visual, like Visual Studio debugger with breakpoints. I use it occasionally. I find that Lua is so fast to iterate with, and one of the main advantages of like a debugger like that is you don't have to compile. Well, you don't have to compile Lua anyway. That I like just printing things. It's generally pretty quick, and occasionally I'll pull up the tools to use that and step through things. Let's see what this is calling. Basically, what is it comparing and why? Apples to bananas, fire. Did bananas really end up with 3? It did. Hey, look at that. It's working exactly like I did. I gave him the wrong numbers. That's amazing. It's supposed to be alphabetical. There's my buddy. Okay. Well, wait a minute. You can't change things with your pause. I might have done that. Okay. No bug. Great. Okay, so they're ordered. Perfect. Now we can deal with the colors, the background colors. Oops. Consider talent order, talent trees colors. So the data is there. We just have to do something with it. So here we spawn a panel, and it's got a background image. And I believe image panels have a color we can set on them. Let's find the API. UI image, set color. Simple. Okay. Set color. We need this mess. Tree names is a different table because I wanted the talents. I left the talent data in the one table as it was instead of making another layer deeper to add some of the data. I made a parallel table. But background color, that should work. Bam! It worked. That is really lacking some border. Just solid color rectangle. Maybe material to go with it. It looked a lot better when it was solid white. The brown's okay. If the talent stayed red like this on brown, how were they when it started? Yeah, that looks pretty reasonable. This works pretty well. Can imagine making this a little darker. Making this a little bit darker. Yeah, it looks more reasonable. Let's see what we can do about talent tree panel image. Can we give this a rounded corners maybe? Maybe one of the ones that has a frame on it? There are frame images and background images. I don't know if there's, I guess that doesn't make sense that you could have both together. What else is the background? Height. Okay, so we could add another image in here. And it needs to be on top. So that's background flat. This could be a frame and be a different color. Something crisp and clean. Maybe that guy. Oh, that's going to really highlight how the scroll bar is covering it up. That's interesting. Let's update that and see how this looks. Oh, I forgot to set its height too. If I set the height the same thing, it would end up there, but that really makes the scroll bar really obvious. Can I make the inherent parent width -10? So I'm telling it to be 10 units smaller than its parent in width. And because its anchor is left. Okay, that works. Look at that. If I set the height correctly, that doesn't look too bad. That works surprisingly well, actually. Alright, de-instance this, put a reference to this guy. Background, border. Border image, sure. And then tell the script to do the same thing to that. So, tree border image. Okay, this is pretty good. Colors are kind of atrocious what I have here, but you can make that work. Actually taking talents. Okay, so back to that. We have this guy. And now we talked about having the tree name and the talent name and how that was a lot of data, or an arbitrary amount of data. And it could be too much and the broadcast would fail, and then you get a very strange error message. So we can do a similar thing to what we did here. I'm just going to access this directly one more time rather than saving up to a variable because I'm only using a few places. If I use a lot of places, I will do something better. So instead of using the tree name itself, which is a string, we're going to use the order. We can find that by looking up from on the other side, but it is an integer, guaranteed to be pretty small. The talent itself, we're using the name. We could use the x and y coordinate. I think that's actually a reasonable thing to do. Tree x and tree y. Those are guaranteed to not be too big. I'm going to set this to a variable in the previous line. Tree order. All right, so we will need to write a function that tries to find the talent from this. But that being said, this network data is always the limiting thing. It's always the thing you want to optimize the most. And this uniquely identifies a talent and is never, like, you'd have to have some very strange setup for this to be too much data. In fact, I don't think you even can. I think that the size of an integer at its maximum, even if you put crazy numbers, you know, billions, is not that big. Okay, so the server script, which we haven't looked at all today, needs to catch this and know what to do with it. Here's a server script here. Talent selector server. Look at that, 40 lines. What a lightweight. On talent learned. On talent learned. All right, so one piece of information you need to know is which player. Luckily, when you broadcast from client to server, that information comes with it. You don't have to actually pass that as an argument. The server can pick that up on its own. So we're going to copy this out so we remember what we have. Player, tree order, tree X, tree Y. We're going to do some work to find that talent. And events.connect for player, I believe it's called. We'll search that in a second. Learn talent and talent learned. Events.connect for player. Okay. So this is just like connecting to an event, but it adds the player that sent the event as the first argument, which is what we were just talking about. All right, so we need to find this talent. So, tree name, tree data in pairs. First thing we need to do is find the order. Extra space in there. If tree data dot order comes with tree order, then we found the right tree. local talent data in pairs utility.talent tree table tree data.name. So we take the tree data that had the order in it, we matched it. Then it also has the name in it, so we use it to index into the other table, which now gives us a table where the keys are talent names and the values are talent datas. All right, so now we're going to try to find the talent. If talent data dot tree x equals tree x and talent data dot tree y, then okay, we found our talent. Great. So if utility dot can player acquire talent. Actually, we don't even care. We're just going to try add talent because it already calls that. Try add player talent. And player and talent data. Well, player was passed in, talent data we just found. And return. That's it. You try to add it. And once we're there, we're done. If we found the tree but couldn't find the talent at all, that's a warn, I think. Player. This means we're in a really bad state. Something mismatched. Player clicked on a thing that the server doesn't even think exists. Player tried to take missing talent in tree. All right. All right, so my preferred solution when my lines end up being too long is to just make a local variable that takes part of it. This is in the wrong place. This needs to be down a line. Otherwise, it's going to hit every single time you come through this loop. You'll notice that this turned white. That means I've mismatched parentheses or something. All right, so this is, we found the tree. We iterated through every single talent and didn't find it. Well, that's bad. Okay. What if we didn't find the tree at all? What if we get out here? Then we have a different warning. Which is very similar, but not quite the same. Tried to take talent in missing a tree with order. Okay, so basically we couldn't even find the tree at all. I don't really care where the talent is. It could be useful, I guess, but really it's just they tried to take a talent that we couldn't even find the tree. It works. See this? I'm gonna gimp my test script a little bit. So what this is doing is printing out stuff and then trying to add talents and giving talent points and levels. So I'm going to comment out all this. So all it's doing now is every second it gives us one level and one talent point. Requirement missing. All right, now we're level 3. I guess we have 3 talent points. Having our level and talent points displayed somewhere would be useful. This is super cool. For some reason this one up here requires level 5. I guess that was just me moving something up. This is really, I'm thrilled this is working. It takes this long to get every single talent point. All right, we're gonna make a quick UI element to make sure that this works as we expect. UI elements text box. Talent debug printer. Take this over here, make the font size 50. Sure. Actually, you know, this is even slightly harder than talent selector utility. I need this script in order to be able to interact with the talent point system, which is to say, get player talent points. All right, player talent points. If we look at right here, player get resource level. That's the other part we need. You notice the level will be a little slow to update. That's how the resources work currently. Something I'd like to improve in the future. But for this kind of system, it should be fine. Script.parent.text. So I made it so the parent was the text box. Okay, so this should give me an error immediately. Search attempted to access a client field. Oh, yeah, this whole thing's being client context. Whoops. Talent points. That is way too big and unreadable. Okay, make this 30. Wrap. Talent 1, level 1. Talent 2, level 3. So my level stays up. Talent points go down. We'll get it work. Glorious. Okay, cool. What was up next? Actually taking talents. Actually giving equipment and support only showing some trees. Let's worry about that one a little bit later. That's the one that's going to take a little bit of design. Maybe we'll do that next time. I think pretty soon we'll be integrating this into an actual game and hooking up things to it. Or, more realistically, making some equipment to go with it. Currently we have, it's even shown up here, the fire staff, which is mostly taken from Spell Shock with a little bit of editing. But that's what we got. We need to make a bunch of different equipment. The way I expect this to work is that a lot of the equipment will be passives. They'll have a script with them, but not have something you hold. Some of them they will. You want generally when you're designing a game, you want your opponents to be able to read information about you, to see you, and know what kind of things to expect. This was it really enables some counterplay. You know, you see the wizard character, you try to charge in and melee them, or know not to be in line of sight and that sort of thing. Actually giving equipment. All right. So part of this, I thought about just at the beginning of the round. The way this was set up for the other game was it was a round-based game. Beginning of the round, players, or during the lobby while you're waiting for the round, you can spend your talent points, and then the round starts. Everyone has their equipment. They battle each other. Round ends. You get some more talent points. I thought about giving everyone all the equipment all at once, but that could be a lot of late network traffic because equipment tend to be a bunch of networked objects, and you can't do anything outside the lobby. You don't even have a body. They're outside of the round, so we don't need to remove your equipment, especially since you can't get rid of talents. All I need to do is when you take a new talent, add the equipment. That is very easy. On talent learned. All right. So this is what I should call this try learn talent actually. On try talent learned, just to be really clear, because there's two reasons I want to do this. One is, yes, the server is the authority and the client can't actually be sure of that. The other is, this isn't happening on talent learned implies this happens when this is a callback and saying, hey, do what you want to do because they learned talent. Versus this is, hey, the client tried to learn talent. This handle that, which is the thing it's doing is actually learning the talent. So try add player client in utility here. This guy right here. This is going to do some things. So we get the talent. Player state tree helper. We say, hey, we change the string so that everyone knows what talents you have. We set that string and we remove talent points. Well, we should also give them the equipment. I'm pretty sure, let's look at this function again. I'm pretty sure the equipment is required field. Equipment template right there. If it's missing, it's missing. Okay, yep, gotta be one. Okay. Everything's gotta have an equipment. So, before we even do that, local equipment equals world.spawn asset. All right, spawn one of them. Great. And equip it to the player. Simple. So when someone takes the talent, when they actually get it, we spawn the equipment and equip it to them. So that may have an error. Error connecting event unless 60. And server. Try learn talent. And try. Pet listener is null. I don't know about that. I also should like name these the same thing, but I feel like that's not null. Okay, so here's what I'm gonna do. See my character? I hit N, hold nothing. Boop. Got a fire staff. Boo. And shoot shadowy bolts. And then if I got a little bit of mouse cursor problem here. When you pause, there's functions to hide and show the mouse cursor, and when you pause in the editor, it can mess with that a little bit because it does some of the same stuff. What I'm going to do is right here, I'm showing just hard coding it that you can interact with the UI in this test script. That's not where this should be. This should be in on show talent trees and on hide talent trees. So you show the talent trees, suddenly you need the cursor, and on hide talent trees, suddenly you don't. And nothing in here. Great. All right. So I take this talent, shoot my shadow bolt, take this talent. Now I have 2 fire staffs, I believe. It's pretty much all these talents have the same staff. It's hard to tell when you have a whole bunch of copies of the same equipment. If I made them different, it would be more obvious. But every single talent has the same equipment, yeah. We can test that, but I will just change the talents to be sensible things soon. All right, action equipment, super easy. Support only showing some trees. Okay. How are we going to do this? The obvious and easy way to do this is to do it on the client. The client's the one representing, showing all the talents. But the client should not actually be authoritative here. I could just say in the client script here that we just looked at, basically I'm going to do this simple way where I can do the simplest way where I add a single value that's how many trees to show, and it just does it randomly. There's just, if you wanted to add something where it's based on class or something, then you would have to add that to the script itself, although that wouldn't be too hard. But then in here I could say, okay, well, let's just randomly pick some, and those are the trees you get. Put it in a table somewhere, fine. But that's just trusting this script, and the server has no authority over that, and in the crazy event that this becomes the world's very popular game and people put time into hacking it, which admittedly is I'd be happy with that just to be popular. They could make their client a little different. They could pick the trees they want, or just take talents from all the trees, which would give them a large advantage. So, let's think about how we can have the server control this. Currently, where is it? Are these actually showing correctly now? So there are some networked custom properties the server uses to represent state. If I go here, there's player state helpers. All right. So you get one per player, and it says how many talent points they have. And then you get, I could use that for level too. And then you get one per player per tree that says which they have. What I could do is have the server randomly choose and not even spawn these for the trees you don't have. Just say you only get these 3, and then the client can look at that and say those are the ones I know I'm only allowed to take those. And if you try to change your client and take a different one, the server just says no, that's not one of your acceptable trees. That seems like a way to do this. We could have some sort of string in here that represents which trees you have. I think just finding the object at all is a fair way to do it, and keeps this. One consideration was to keep the number of networked objects in this folder down. If we have 8 trees, or in extreme case 20 trees and 16 players, but each player only gets access to 2 or 3 trees, well, you don't want 300 objects in here. You want 30 or 40. All right, so let's see where we spawn those. It's probably in here. Well, maybe. Initialize talent tree data. Player state group. Where is this guy used? Those 4 places. Well, that's finding things. Where is it set to the parent of something? Aha! On player joined. In the server script, we're spawning things. This is most of what this script does. All right, so our talent selector in the talent trees, true with 3 height. Integer. I could put the custom properties around the talent selector itself. It felt like having the custom properties on the talent trees made sense, because there's so many properties on each node along the way that all the data is stored in there, and it's kind of where you'd look. Number of visible trees. All right. So I'm going to make this property that's, maybe I can put a tooltip on it. Each player gets access to this many trees at random. Oop. So, because we'll have 3 trees, we're going to test this, we're going to say you only get 2. We'll pick 2 at random, that's what you get. We should consider things like when a player decides to leave and rejoin. Do they lose their progress? Do they get new random trees? What if you join right away and say, I don't like these trees, and leave and join, leave and join, leave and join? That's kind of lame. We should just do it in a way where you just get the same ones each time, based on the server right, some random seed that the server generates once, and then your name or your ID or something, and so you can't change it. Talent trees. Custom property, talent trees. Interesting. The thing I just described is an interesting problem, and the combinatorics of selecting a random set out of another, random n out of a big set is also interesting. They're both solvable, and I've actually run into this algorithm a few times recently, but we've got to think about how to write this the cleanest and most intuitive, but also like easy to work with, easy to understand, less likely to make bugs. So I'm going to stare at it for a minute. Excuse me. One thing to note, We had a bug. I forgot to fix it. I did this, but the state was not correct at the beginning because the talent trees generally would not actually be visible at the beginning, right? You'd want to have that turn on and then hit this. Like the cursor visible and interacting with UI is not the default state. This is the default state. I guess we basically just want to call one of these either way. Yeah, I think I'm gonna. Am I okay with directly calling a event handler? That's fine. It'll work. Let's see what this does. Right. I think that didn't work. It didn't work because this thinks they're visible. Cool. Okay. Back to what we were doing. So we need to randomly pick them, and we need to seed it based on, in a way that when you leave and rejoin, you end up with the same ones. I don't think that's that important yet and not too hard to add later, so let's worry about the other part first. Equal number of visible trees. I think that's what I called it. I've had different projects in my programming past where if I have a variable that's a count of something, that sometimes I call it count or n underscore or num. I try to be consistent. In the case of core, I'm biasing my style very heavily to be readable by others. I want these things to be shared. I want people to read them using examples, and I want people to learn how to use core, how to use Lua. So I try to make things as readable as possible and make my variables very obvious. I actually helped a user just this morning who, I can actually show you exactly what I did. There is, in core content here, there's an object called team score. Let me start run on team score limit. Okay, so I wrote this. And that's not the right one. Sorry, kill score, or kill victory. Kill team score. Round kill limit, that one. Ah. All right, they wanted it to do something when a player wins. Is this the right one? Close enough. Interesting. Maybe it was the other one. The point is, the way I had written this logic is I had a variable called winner, and I go through the players and say, hey, basically, if our player has enough kills and there is a winner, then we have a tie. That means two players have enough kills. But otherwise, then we become the winner, and then if there is a winner down here, we do the winning thing. And what happened is the user looked at this and said, oh, this variable is called winner. If winner, that means there's a winner. And they printed, handle victory right here. And that was actually, I should have called it potential winner or winner candidate, because this is actually the case where there's two winners. And I was like, it's so subtle and simple. I was like, winner seemed like a good variable name at the time, but it led to someone being tripped up. So I've thought very heavily about what do I name my things to make the variables very clear exactly what they are. Or as clear as I can be. All right, so number of visible trees. Maybe usable trees? Maybe usable, because it's kind of a strange concept. You don't normally get random trees, but It's not that the other ones are invisible. I mean, they are. You just also can't use them at all. They're not accessible to you. That's not for you to have. Okay. This is actually a constant. Don't need to get it every time the player joins. It's always the same. All right, so the general approach here, this combinatorics problem, is to get a random ordering of the trees and then take the first n of them. That's a simple and cheap way to get a random, like an n choose r type thing. You pick 3 out of 7. I'll just take 7, sort of shuffle them, and take the top 3. You've done that. And shuffling them is actually simpler than it seems. Some very clever people thought about this. It turns out if you have a relatively simple to describe algorithm, you look on the internet, you'll find people who have spent way too much time thinking about it, or in old textbooks, and come up with lots of clever ideas. I would love to credit the guy, but I can't remember his name. Let me do a quick Google search so I can... algorithm for shuffling list. The Noose Shuffle, the Fisher-Yates Shuffle. That's the one. Read this several times recently. The naive approach, and the one that's kind of a mess, right? If I lay down playing cards left to right, and I say, okay, I'm gonna pick one at random. That's easy. Okay, 8 playing cards. You roll number 1 to 8. Pick that one up. Okay, that's the first one in your new deck. Then 1 to 7 out of the remaining ones. Then 1 to 6 and the remaining ones. Just stack those in 1 to 5, 1 to 4. Not so hard to do in person. The problem is in a computer, when you remove one out of the middle, if you nudge them all over, that's kind of inefficient. And if you don't nudge them all over, you have to you get to a state where you have indices 1 through 8 and 4 and 6 are missing, and then you're like, okay, I'm gonna roll a 6-sided die and then pick the third one, and you have to count skipping the ones you've already taken out, and that's also really ugly to write. The clever thing is you don't have to nudge them over, you just have to swap. It doesn't matter what order the remaining ones are in, because you're picking them randomly. So if I have 1 through 8 and I pick out number 4, I just swap it with number 8. Now I've got 7 in indices 1 through 7, and I can pick one randomly. In fact, I don't even have to put it in a different list. I just swap it with 8, pick a random one, swap it with 7, pick a random one, swap it with 6. At the end, I'll have a random ordering. Clever people. All right, so we got the talent trees that we want to have in a random order. And they have names. How do we want to do this? So this part, we're just dealing with spawning the tree helpers, right? We're just going to spawn only the ones that this player has access to, and then at the other part, the client side, we're going to worry about looking at those tree helpers and then doing the order thing instead of just ordering all the ones that we have. We'll say only take the ones that are there. That'll actually be easier than it sounds. All right, so we need a thing that we can shuffle, which I believe is, we need to make a table where the indices are integers and the values are just the names of tables, I think. Local tree name table. I'm actually going to take this right here. I'm going to replace that in a minute, but okay. So I took a table, iterated through 3 names and stuck them in there. Now we're going to shuffle. For I equals 8, 2, -1. So there's 2 types of for loops in Lua. This is the initial value, final value increment form versus the iterate through a bunch of pairs that you use most of the time. So we want 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. You don't have to do the last one because there's only one. If you pick one out of one, so it's the same one. Index equals math.random I. So math.random is a built-in Lua function. It has three forms. You give it no argument, and it gives you a float from 0 to 1. You give it one argument, and it gives you an integer from 1 to that argument you gave it, or you give it two arguments, and it gives you an integer between the two, inclusive on both ends. So the first number we're going to get is a number anywhere from 1 to 8. Let me think about this. We might be doing a little bit too much extra work. I'd actually look at the article over here telling me how to do this. Basically, the way I'm saying this is whatever one we get is whatever goes in the last slot. 1 through 8. And then we're going to do 1 through 7. That goes in the next slot. 1 through 6 goes in the next slot. In each case, there's a chance we don't swap at all. That seems okay. And Lua can do this lovely thing that Python can do, where you can, I realize these variables are terrible, I'll change them in a second, where you can swap things without having an intermediate value by using the Python tuple, but in Lua doesn't have a formalized name. You can't store it into a variable, it's just a pair of things. Maybe you can store it into a variable, I don't know. So basically, if we can random number 1 to 8, we take that element and swap it with the 8th element. If they're the same, hopefully this does nothing. Let me look this online a little bit to make sure that I'm not doing extra work. There might be a clever way to avoid this. Yep, their implementation is exactly what I just wrote. Great. Thank you, Internet. Only with better so I'm going to call this end index, random index. Very clear names. All right. And you swap. And the last one's there. All right. So we have a tree name table in a random order. Great. And then all we need is the name, which is the thing that comes out of this. So for this table's going to have as many as I just assumed this had 8 elements. That's nonsense. 2 is correct, -1 is correct. This is whatever size the thing has. I'm sorry. Okay. We're going to, this will have as many elements as trees we have, but we only want to use the first few. So we're gonna, for I equals 1 do. So we're literally just iterating 1 to that number, and tree name table I will give us and I don't think we need this at all. I think, whoops, do that and it'll work. Okay, so this should, okay. So I only have fire and bananas. If I hit N, it's probably gonna error, yes. Because the client script doesn't understand this at all, and it tried to find this helper and it wasn't there. However, you see fire and bananas, Fire bananas. Fire apples. I guess there's 1/3 chance to hit the same thing. Great. And every time I close, it has an error because it's trying to destroy all these things that are not there. I'm going to, first thing I'm going to do with this function here, get player state tree helper. Return find child by name. Tree helper name. I feel like that shouldn't error. 48. Okay, yeah, right. So this actually just returns nil. It correctly tries to find it and says it's not there. Rather than try to coordinate which trees they actually have and save that away somewhere, I'm just going to say only destroy it if it exists. If it's not there, assume that was correct. Okay. So no errors there. If I hit N, it's still going to error because the client doesn't know what to do with this. All right, client. Now we're looking at where we did this ordering thing, this nonsense here. All right. So we're only adding tree data for the trees that this client cares about. If you don't have that tree, you can't see it. You don't pretend it doesn't exist at all. We can find out by get player state tree helper, probably. This is a questionable way to do this. The reason for this is that when the client joins, they might not, it takes time for objects to network, to replicate. So the server may spawn these things, but the client might be running this code before it gets the things. Let's see how this works. I suspect that we will have to do some sort of trick to wait for this. All right. Tree data. Tree name. All right, so this is saying only stick these in our array if the helper is there. And then we do our sort and all that. All right, this complained immediately. 112. Oh, of course. Because as soon as I made this thing, it then tried to find the one that we didn't have. Is there a way to do this not doing the same check twice? The problem is when I sort, I need to know which ones are hiding so I know where to put the ones that are still there. So I need to actually get rid of them entirely. And then down here, same deal. Okay, given, do it twice. Just if it's not there, then assume that it's not for us. $197. The tick function, same deal. We're getting through all the talents to set them up. Well, we don't have all the talents. So let's add this same check in a third place, right here. Okay, I want to continue, but I can't continue because this is Lua. So instead, we put the entire thing in an if statement. I don't think it got my updated change. No, it did. 189, doesn't like button template. Talent data, tree data. Curious. Why though? All right, we got bananas and fire. And nothing spawned. Do you see this? So that's the thing I'm talking about with the race condition. So the tick function was happy to go into there and find those things, but when we try to create them, none of the helpers were there yet. So it failed to create anything at all. That is a conundrum. Adding a wait function is not ideal. Or just a delay. Basically it's easy to say, okay, let's just task.wait 1.0. And still errors. Interesting. Okay, maybe there's some logic error in that logic. Oh. $117. Let's look at that in a second, and then I'll talk about waiting. Index doesn't know index, so this was not in this table. Treated array. Every tree data that had a thing. Oh, return again, not what I wanted. I want to continue here. I don't know if that would... cause the script error, but you know, why not? Let's just add like 7 ends in a row and see what it does. $113, didn't like it. Same deal. Let's add a print here. Nothing. Oh. Let's be looking skeptically at the camera. Task.wait is not soon enough. We did a bunch of checks up here. Task.wait has to be above it. Bam. Okay. Alright, so this almost works. A few things to talk about. So I've got bananas and fire. Try again. Get apples and fire. Alright, notice they're positioned poorly. One of the reasons is that a lot of this is based on the total number of trees. Where's the total number of trees? And it should be based on the number of visible trees. Number of usable trees. Put it up here. Figure out where we're doing math with that. And talent trees. Alright, so we can just this had an N in it. By Okay. All right, now I have 2 trees. They look good. Give bananas and fire once. Bananas, fire again. Apples and fire. Okay. Cool. So I'm going to change this to n instead of number. This got a little unwieldy. But I'm going to talk about task.wait, why that worked and why that's a bad solution. So the problem was that the server script, when it reads through, it spawns a bunch of objects that tell you your state, which talents you have, and which trees. And the client and server use that to know which trees the client has access to. And the client script reads through and says, hey, I found these things. I know I have access to these. And it does it immediately when it runs. It tries to build up the whole thing. And it needs to assume that it has all the stuff already there. And it didn't right away, so I wait a little bit and give it time to replicate, and it works. Well, that works great when I'm running single-player preview here. And it might even work great in multiplayer preview with my own machine. It might even work great when I test my very simple map when I publish. The problem is that there's always a point where it is too much. There's always a point where someone takes this, puts it into a very large map with a lot of things going on. And if you have all the equipment spawning projectiles and explosions and stuff, sometimes network traffic really gets backed up. And there's always some point where it takes too long. And if it fails catastrophically. The client ends up in a place where they can never take talents and the entire game is ruined. That's bad. And it's a common flaw and problem because it's very easy to say, hey, it works on my machine. So I'm going to think about it. I don't actually have a good solution right now for how to get around this, but this is not exactly what I want to do. It's really, really, really not what I want to do. But it works for now. Realistically, I could give it 0.1 and it'll work fine in single player preview and not take time. Okay. I can take the print statement out. And I wanted to change n number to n. N usable, and that is way shorter. In both cases, I'm going to change the actual name of the property on the thing. And usable trees, it's right here. Bam. Okay. Talent selector server, 27. And usable trees. Did that really not work? And usable trees. Usable and usable trees. I feel like that should work. Okay. I changed 2 files in Sublime, and when I saved, it only saved 1. This is a pet peeve of mine. When you Control S and it saves the 1 file you have selected, I don't know anyone who ever wants to not save files intentionally. I think that Control S should just save everything. In fact, yeah, basically. Anyway, here's my talents. Watch them work. It's pretty cool. I'm pretty excited about this. All right, so up next, we're going to be done with Talent Selector next time, I think. We're going to I'm gonna brew on it, see what I can come up with, not having to wait a second or a fraction of a second here. That's really bad. Replace wait and find a robust solution there. And then we'll go on to other things. I have many, many things to make. And I'm interested in people's input, what they'd like to see. I can work on the game this is going into. I can work on a different game. I want to make weather things. I want to make a template you can drag in your game to make it snowing or raining or dynamic fogs and clouds. I wanted to make, there's a lot of things here. Worldling tools. This has some limitations that don't really work out, but that was an idea. It's construction toolkits, a bunch of templates you could use to make a platformer or a top-down puzzle game or whatever. Yeah, and there's more things. Talent Selector, look at that right there. We're doing it. An RPG inventory, SAS specs, you name it. I'll be making things for a long time. I'll definitely be streaming Monday. I might do something this weekend, I'm not sure. Thank you for watching, everyone. Let me... here we go.